When most of us think about toys, we think about happiness. We think about the way kids are happy playing with toys. Most toys are smiling and awesome and fun. And as collectors, as adult collectors, the hobby should be fun too. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. Well, over the last few years, the last decade or so, things have gone from all smiles to not quite all smiles. And the frustration has continued to build, and there's been a lot of different reasons for this. One is the fact that a lot of retail stores have very empty shelves, and whether you're blaming COVID or the lack of Toys R Us or scalpers or, an evil invasion of space mice, there are problems with the shelves. And there are quality control problems out there too. I mean, when you buy a giant $400 robot, you expect it to be able to do your dishes and have knees that work. And hey, when that doesn't happen, yes, I agree, quality control. So when a company is, if you will, sucking the money right out of our wallet, I mean, they're not doing this. No one's being forced to buy toys, but let's be honest here. We're all emotionally connected to this, and yes, how can you possibly resist a complete collection? And that's what makes a lot of us go broke because of that emotional connection and having to have every figure. So one thing we've seen that's really been frustrating is the rise of prices. And this has been very clear in mainstream news. All of the major toy companies have announced over the last few months that they're raising prices, that their cost to consumers is going to go up, and this is going to happen before the holiday season in 2021. And this has led to a lot of adult collectors feeling, what? Like, why is this happening? I'm still getting the same quality of product. What is it I can possibly do about this?
Boy, this is gonna get worse before it gets better.
Well, to really understand what's going on with prices and what's going on with the economics of the toy industry, we have to look at it from the top down. And not like the CEOs and all the executives are walking away with bundles and bundles of cash. It's actually far from that. A lot of it has to do with labor costs, especially labor costs in countries like China on the right there, where costs continue to skyrocket. And that's because it's moving into a more first world economy where the people making the product are getting paid more of a living wage, which is a good thing, right? We don't want people to have to work for very low wages. Well, the issue there is the reason product is made in China is because it can be assembled, painted, and completed there at low cost. Every toy we have is hand painted and hand assembled. Well, every action figure, if you will. There is no machine that puts action figures together or paints them. So when you're getting a $20 to $40 action figure, you're getting a handmade, fully painted, articulated character of or representation of a character you love. So yeah, we may say $20 is a lot to pay, but not only do you have to account for labor costs and assembly, but shipping as well. They have to get that product from those low-cost manufacturers overseas to the US or whatever country you live in, and then get it to the store to buy. And freight costs have been going up too, especially with the whole COVID global shutdown. What has not been going up are profit margins. So profit margin is the difference between what a company makes a product for and what they sell it for. And if you look at the major toy manufacturers, and I'm talking about the big ones like your Mattels in El Segundo and your Hasbros in Providence, Rhode Island, they're not running away with huge record profits. In fact, if anything, Mattel's profits have been down, making a slight uptick. But the toy industry as a whole, the executives and the company making much, much higher after-tax profits is just, well, not that it's a myth, but I mean, factually, it's not true. And the thing about adult collectors and toy buyers is we want consistency. So we want a figure we bought, say a Marvel Legends figure from 5 years ago to work perfectly with a figure we buy today and be the same, feel like it's the same. Which makes toy companies constantly look for new factories around the world where they can produce toys cheaper and cheaper. So you might say, okay, well, what about a company like Lego? They keep having bigger and bigger sets, and the prices, it's very different from action figures. Well, there's a big key difference between a Lego set and an assembled painted action figure. Action figures or toy cars, dolls, most categories outside of something like construction play, which is Lego, have to be assembled. With Lego, the assembly happens at home. These are really more art toys, if you will, because you're building something. So no one has to put something together in the factory. In fact, the Lego factory, this is the Lego factory, they don't have that many people. In fact, it's almost entirely run mechanically by machines and computers, which just sweeps the right blocks into the right packages. And if there's one thing we've learned about working with robots is that eventually, yes, they're going to take over the world, and we should watch out for this. Anyone who's read Asimov knows this. You should also probably know the number one rule with robots is that
don't date robots.
All right, so what toys can be affected by cost reduction? One that we see over and over again are board games. So look at Monopoly the way we had it growing up in the 1980s. You had the money, you had the properties, you had the chance cards, everything was made of a different type of paper material, different size. Lo and behold, today, everything is the same size. The chance cards, the property sets, the money, they're all cut, well, not the money, but the property and the chance and community chest, they're all cut from the same material. Or look at a game like Sorry. When we grew up, Sorry had 4 pawns per color. That is what they call them, pawns, like chess pawns, or 4 pieces, if you will. Fast forward to today, and the Sorry sets have, count them, 1, 2, 3. They've literally cost reduced 1 pawn out of Sorry in order to make it more affordable to produce. You can't really do this with an action figure. You can't just like remove an arm or, you can remove an accessory, but again, we as collectors want consistency. We want the figures we bought 5, 10 years ago to go with the figures we buy today. So if action figures are cost reduced the way board games have been, it would be very noticeable. And this really puts toy companies back against the wall. They're dealing with factors that they have no control over. The fact that labor costs continue to go up and up and up. Raw material costs continue to go up and up and up. So yeah, you could take an action figure and you could remove accessories, or you can charge more when you include more accessories and call it a deluxe figure. This is what we kind of used to get in a basic figure, but nowadays something like this has to be considered a deluxe figure. And of course, as collectors, we want the most for our money. Toy companies will answer this by doing product for kids that are less expensive versions, like the Titan series or 12-inch lines that you see from lots of different companies. This is a direct reaction to the rise in prices. This is companies putting out action figures like this. They're bigger, 12 inches, bigger than 6 inches. They have less articulation and less paint ops. The same thing with some recent Star Wars figures. The reason we're getting these toys is because kids who are the major purchaser of product, or rather parents buying for kids, well, they want value and they want to be able to get something good for their money. Versus collectors, sometimes we're willing to spend the money. A Hot Toys product, for example, that costs several $100s. If it's the right character, someone that we're emotionally connected to, we may be willing to throw down several $100s for an amazing representation of a character. Or, again, to go full circle back to that giant robot we talked about at the beginning of the video. So, yes, for collectors, we're willing to pay the price. But for mass retail, for product that has to hang on shelf, that's just not possible because kids and parents have to buy it. So the executives are not getting more ivory back scratchers. The profit margin for companies and the net income after taxes is not going up. It's labor, it's shipping, and it's raw material cost that continues to go up. Companies want to be able to produce product for kids to play with, the biggest market. Preschool is even the biggest market, but they're in a situation where the walls just keep getting tighter and tighter, and it's harder and harder to put out the same consistency year after year. I hope this video was insightful as why prices are going up and why they're going up where the toy we bought last year costs less than the toy we're buying this year when it's the same series. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Subscribe, ring the bell. It all helps the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.